Audio, visual recording and photography at council meetings is permitted in accordance with the council's protocol filming of public meetings. Thank you. First item on the agenda this evening is apologies.
Apologies, Chair, from the council, Val and Barry Bowles and the police representatives on the wrong shift to begin, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. So the next item on the agenda, police and public participation. We haven't got anything from the police, have we?
No.
Any figures or anything this evening. Is there anything anybody wants to raise to be passed on to the police this evening? Thank you. And public participation. We have two groups from the members of the public here this evening, both of which have got something that they want to raise. So, Alison and Ross, if I could come to you first, because you were the people I spoke to first and got your names.
Yeah, I mean, ours is more about the hall, to be fair. We don't seem to get any answers from the hall. So
The hall, as in
this hall,
the civic centre?
yeah, and wanting to hire the hall. We've been hiring this room and this small room for the past 4 years, on probably 4 or 5 times a year. We've been doing soul and Motown nights. We always do one for charity every year, whether it's British Heart Foundation or whether it's Cancer Research or whatever. We always do one. And we did have 3 booked for the remainder of 2021. And we just received an email saying, sorry, they've been extended, there are no more. Because we don't have any staff, we don't have any stock. So we did a bit of digging around, a bit of research, and we just don't know where to go with this. This is why we're coming to you guys, because somebody has to have a final decision on this. The one in September was booked for the NHS staff, the Carlton Nurses Trust. It's the 4th of September, so all the money was going to go to NHS workers who were struggling financially and emotionally. We've got all the DJs booked, everyone's giving up the time for free, and that's where all the money was going to go. But it's been cancelled. Now, we did give a couple of alternatives to the hall and said we can bring an outside bar. We know somebody who does the local bar at Bangor Village Hall. He's got an outside bar licence. He'll bring the staff, he'll bring the stock. Just to get you through this year, at least we'll be paying your rent, we'll be bringing some revenue into the hall, try and get it up and running again, because I know you've got to get some more staff, I know you've got to restock it. This is going to help. We'll put a bucket on, we'll do a whip round. The next one after that, I said we'll do just for the hall. I can't cancel the Carlton Nurses Trust one because we've already told people that's what it's for. But I said the next one would be for the hall. All the money would go towards the hall. And we get about 250 to 300 people through the door, paid £5 each, so that would have been a lot of money towards the hall getting up and running again. And I sent it to Steve, got no answer. I sent it to the hall, got no answer. So what I want to know is whose decision is it to say you can't have an outside bar here and why?
Okay.
If I can comment, Chairman,
Yeah,
well, first of all, the 250 to 300 attendees that you're talking about, you'll probably appreciate, is a level of concern in the current circumstances.
Yeah, I agree.
But we wouldn't have that many.
I must admit, I've just listened to what you've said, and I knew that the usage had been refused. I didn't know a lot of the detail that you just mentioned relating to the NHS, etc. I've got an item on the agenda for tonight's meeting, actually, about the youth. The parish council is responsible for 2 community premises in this parish. They are the custodian trustee of these premises, and the day-to-day work is undertaken by the management trustees, and I presume you say Steve, you're talking about the chairman of the trustees?
Yes.
Steve, yeah.
Yeah.
The youth centre obviously is run in accordance with regulations which are set out by the Notts County Council youth section, so that we conform to everything that they require us to do. But in the current circumstances, we have been refusing use of this hall for high numbers of people because of the COVID problems. It's really as simple as that.
So if we reduce the numbers?
Sorry?
If we reduce, it's a ticket
Well,
only.
no, if I can just explain, the building is in use for what might be described as community and voluntary organisations. So they're small numbers of people. Sometimes there might be 6, 10, 15, and they are responsible for their track and trace issues that have to be addressed. Now, things are changing all the time, as you'll appreciate. I mean, we've had announcements only yesterday about the use of buildings and the use of, or shall I say, community organisations, entertainment, etc. But until, well, I am surprised to hear you saying that you've not heard anything from anybody. I thought you had spoken to both Joe and Helen here at the centre.
They said it wasn't really their decision, and Joe said, to be fair, I think Helen would rather you sorted it out because she just really didn't know. That was the last answer I got, and I put a quite a lengthy
when
email.
she said, Helen said rather you sorted it out, who
Because
did you mean?
she didn't think that it was Helen's decision, and I think Helen felt that she was kind of stuck in a rock and a hard place because Helen's always supported her now.
No, the use of the building and when we're open and when we're not open is basically a matter of discussion between Helen, the trustees, and if necessary the council. That's why it's on the agenda tonight. Because in the current climate, and this is only my opinion, I feel what might only be described as somewhat uncomfortable about having 250 people in this room on a Saturday night with entertainment.
It is across 2 rooms. We understand that.
Yeah.
The lifting restrictions.
So there has been, the guidance has been that we don't take bookings for that sort of event until we are safe enough to do so.
Well, that's from Monday, isn't it?
That's for any night. That's for any night.
From Monday the guidance changed.
Sorry, from Monday the guidance has changed. But notwithstanding the guidance, and again I'm trying not to be too negative about this, I think that when you are responsible for those numbers of people attending a function and being in a building in those numbers, some wear masks, some don't, the recommendations of what they are. It's all about personal responsibility now. What we were trying to avoid was the potential for any, shall we say, outbreak of infection and things like that that could essentially be traced back to this building and the usage, because I have no doubt at all that if that were the case and it did happen. Now what I intended to do was to ask the council to defer the use of this building for that purpose and reconsider what we might do when we have our September meeting. Because by September, I just thought that we'd have a better feel for what was happening nationally, we'd have a better feel for what people were recommending and saying was safe, and it was just a question, I thought, for the sake of a couple of months, that would be the way forward.
Well, the Prime Minister has actually said that nightclubs are opening
Perhaps I
up.
could just put a health and safety perspective on this.
Yeah, but that weren't
Can I just ask a question?
what they told us. It was the bar that were the reason.
Let me just ask a question, because this is not to do with the bar, this is to do with health and safety.
No,
and
that's
I
not
don't
the
know,
reason
and I
it's
don't know
given.
whether this is being considered or not. Have you got a risk assessment in place?
I can do a risk assessment, that's what I do for my job, no problem. And
Well,
we have
that's
our own
brilliant.
insurance.
And we have our own
That's
liability.
brilliant.
We have
So
our own
have you-
liability insurance and we
Have you
have our own
got
security.
a risk assessment in place?
We've never needed one, but I can do a COVID risk assessment because I do one for his business.
That's great. I'm not saying it would get you the use of the room. This is just me putting an option
Yeah, I
forward
can do
to
one,
you.
no problem.
So a risk assessment of the room, potential numbers realistically that
Oh,
you might
yeah.
have in the room. Obviously,
No problem with
250, 300 is, as we've said, far too many, but that would be another useful thing to do. How are you going to monitor your track and trace? How are you going to make sure that people
I
are
can create one
COVID
of those.
secure when
It's
they come in?
Alison's job.
That's
You're
what I
telling
do.
her something she already knows.
That's fine, it's my job too, and it's also my Vice Chair's job. So, you know, with
Yeah.
respect, but also people that are going to events currently are having to get a COVID certificate and to prove that they've had 2 vaccinations, etc., etc. So, have you done that? And if you haven't, I
You
suggest-
don't need that's rubbish. From Monday, everything opens up. As far as Boris is concerned,
With respect,
it
you're
opens up.
wanting to use our facilities, so I'm asking you, have you done this? If you haven't, might I suggest that you do, so that when you talk to the trustees, if we can get you a meeting with the trustees, so that these events might still go ahead, and I don't know whether they will, but if you come along with any risk assessment, etc., obviously the bar's a different question, but at
Yeah,
least
you
that's
keep
something
avoiding.
that you can do.
That's fine. I can sort all the health and safety stuff out, not
Yeah.
a problem.
That would be part of the way.
Yeah, that's
I'm
fine.
not saying it would get you a yes at all, I'm not saying that, but at least it would show that you considered the numbers,
That's fine. I
etc.
can sort the health and safety. So can we move on to what the other issue is? Is why can we
Chairman,
not
can
bring an
I just
outside
say
bar?
something in general on this,
Okay,
please?
thank you.
I'm being left behind puzzled on this, because to me, I don't understand how anybody can want to hold any gathering of people of fairly high numbers in a confined space with the situation being as it is now. I mean, I understand what the government's done. I don't think they've got very much choice. But the fact of the matter is, there are many, many people, mainly young people, who some of them didn't have the chance to get the vaccinations that all of us have had. And it's spreading rapidly and increasing every day. And to me, if we had, let us say if we had a gathering in here, say in this room, even with only 50 people, and you've got one spreader in there, it'll go through this place like wildfire. And as, well, I have towards the whole, I'm just a parish councillor. But I would not agree that we facilitate people holding meetings like that in this place, in a confined space, at this particular time. Now, what the government's doing in opening things up, I am not sure what the regulations are going to be.
Individual venues are being asked to do their own risk assessments.
Yeah, but to me, it's a simple matter. It's if you're in a confined space, you've got a big problem. If you get one person in there, I'll shut up after this, but I feel really strongly about this, and perhaps you'll understand why. One of my granddaughters is, well, she was actually 18 last week. Like many in that group at the moment, they're following each other around, going to 18s parties and so on and so on. They've all been very, very careful, and they've had all of their meetings outside in people's gardens, and they haven't had a problem, which I think was very sensible of them. Then it rained, and they had a gazebo. All it was an awning with no sides or anything on it. And out of 20 odd people there, one person must have got COVID, and 13 others got it within days, including my granddaughter. She's better again now. But it just went like that, like wildfire. And this is what, whoever was to hold an event like that, in here or anywhere else, exactly the same thing will happen. And I wouldn't want to be part of it, allowing my facilities to be used for that purpose, knowing that there was going to be a problem. If somebody can tell me there isn't a problem, because there's going to be nobody there with COVID, I'm afraid I won't believe it, because nobody can substantiate that. There are many, many healthy young people walking about with minimal symptoms or nothing, simply because they fit young people. But we all know what the consequences are when it passes to other people.
You know,
and I've just quoted you an example.
I work in education with young people that you're talking about, and if everybody I work with had your attitude, all the schools and colleges would be shut.
No, they wouldn't.
We all share a room of 30 people, 30 youngsters in one room. We have a process in place to make sure everybody well, they're either vaccinated or the staff are vaccinated now anyway, and the process in place to track and trace and to report and to isolate. COVID is going nowhere. It's not going anywhere. So what you're saying is, let's just shut everything down, all these big gatherings, until COVID's gone.
No, I'm not.
And the
I'm
people that
saying
to Soldews
hold
are all
them outside
because-
or in the open air where you've got ventilation. It's fatal to hold them in a confined space like
maybe you should
this.
tell Boris Johnson that then, and Chris Whitty, because that's not what they're
Well,
saying from
I
next
wouldn't
week.
venture to bother with what their opinions are, because every time they speak it's different.
Let's not
Yeah.
go down that road.
But I'm sorry,
So-
Chairman, I feel very strongly about
Thank you
this.
for your opinions.
I've made my point and I'll leave it there.
Chair.
I won't support it under any circumstances at the moment.
Chair, could I make a point on this? Spanish flu in the 1918 lasted 33 years before it actually went. So are we saying this is more virulent than the Spanish flu was? It kills more people than the Spanish flu is. So do we shut everything down for 33 years until it's gone?
Can I just come back on that? That isn't what I've said.
Yeah.
As I pointed out earlier, I'm
Secretary
suggesting
said.
that we shut it down and reconsider
Right.
in September.
Okay.
So we're not talking 33 years.
So,
I suppose what I'm saying is, it's very early days in the government's decisions. I'm aware of public buildings, local public buildings, that have had events in the last fortnight, and there has been quite a lot of infections arising from those events. And I was trying to avoid the same potential happening
Yeah.
again, but with a view to reconsidering everything in September at our next meeting, when we would benefit a little bit from the experience of what's happening
Yeah.
elsewhere.
so whilst it's not been in use, has there been a reduction in the council precept for everybody who pays for this place?
No,
No.
there hasn't been a reduction
Oh, right.
in the council precinct.
Why not?
Well, if
Hey, I don't get a reduction on my roads, like my
Well,
roads.
it's not being used, and basically Chris says he doesn't want it to be used. Why are we paying for it? Something that we can't use
because
as a village.
well, because it's been used exceptionally well since the day it opened, and it will continue to be used as soon as we're in a position to do. Well, we are using it again now for smaller groups, and we are controlling what is happening. So when I say it's not being used, it is being used by smaller groups. There are a lot of community organisations in this village who thoroughly enjoy the use of this building, and the council tax for the parish for all its services is less than £2 a week. So
I don't like that use. It doesn't mean anything, £2 a week.
No,
It doesn't mean anything at all.
Well, we're just digressing now. So, as I said earlier on, we've got a meeting in September. I don't know how that fits date-wise with what you've got planned. But equally, we would need to sit down, go through a risk
Tuesday.
assessment and other issues. This isn't the forum to do that. This is the forum to get that moved forwards so that we can discuss it with the right people.
There's no problem with that, but the reason we came here, we got an email saying we couldn't have it because of the bar. And now you've totally spun it on its head and said it's because of numbers. And we understand that. We don't want to put anybody in danger.
We wouldn't.
We're just going by government guidelines.
Come September, we might have an answer on the bar. Who knows?
So it'd be gone by then.
That's why we came, but
Yeah.
for some reason,
Yeah.
and
Well,
we're not. I mean, I run a barber shop. I have to run bar rules. You teach, don't
so
you?
you get the fact that every building needs to do risk assessments. We need to assess each event. You know, my daughter gets married in September. Fingers crossed. The venue has got to do a risk assessment before we know whether the wedding's going to take place. It's after next Monday, but we still don't know. So it's just the same as every other venue. So if I could ask you to do that, then talk to Peter, and then we'll look at where we need to go for the September meeting to move that forwards.
Yep, well, that was always the intention,
Yeah.
to bring it back to September.
Yeah, September's a little bit too late for us because that's when the event was booked for. That's why we booked it in September, because we was hoping that everything had, and it has, it's done exactly what we thought it has. It's all opening
You know,
back
with
up again.
respect, you know, not only my daughter, but a lot of the people I know should have got married last year. They've all had to move events because of COVID. So,
Yeah, of course.
you know,
Yeah.
if it has to be
But
moved,
Your daughter
because-
knows her wedding's going to go ahead, and I bet there's going to be more than 30 people there.
well, we know how many people can be there, providing the risk assessment takes place and the venue okays it. So this is no different. You know, let's get the risk assessment done. Let's see what happens with the bars. I don't know all the ins and outs of that because it doesn't come under my remit.
So does that come under?
Well, it basically comes under the managing trustees, and we have a licence holder, and there are licensing conditions. But again, in the whole history of this building, and while we've had that licence, we have not allowed any external bars.
You see, they said to you that they were chucking stock away, you know, because they don't have enough events.
No, I think that-
Wouldn't it be better to run it as an outside bar? Then it's not your problem. Get the outside bar to pay you money to run the bar for the evening, and if they've got the licence, that's the law, and then you get money off whoever's renting the place.
Yeah.
Might I ask, did you put a proposal together? This is not a decision that we can make tonight.
Who
This
do I
is
send it
something-
to? Because I sent it to Helen.
If you send it to Helen for the
It should go to
intention
Helen, it should go to Helen.
of Peter
Yeah, it should go to
I've
and,
already done that though.
and Steve. Well, Peter
To
will
do it
talk to
again.
Helen tomorrow when she can look out for it coming in.
Right.
Your risk assessment, your proposal for the bar, I'm not saying it will be accepted, but what I'm saying is, if you put that as a proposal and your ideas moving forwards, then it can be considered.
What effectively happens to the profits from the bar?
The barkeeper. When you've done the bar here, they've made about £3,000 behind that bar.
£2,500, £3,000.
That's the profit that we make on the use of the building. because
Yeah, but
we
they
don't-
would pay you
we
for
don't
the
make a
use of the
profit on the
bar.
hire charges, so presumably the bar that you bring in will make that profit.
But he'll bring his own stock and his own staff.
His own
So you've
staff.
got no worry about stock or
I
staff.
don't know how it works, because
No,
where we've run a venue, they've always
This
had
is
a
why
bar.
I say put a proposal together, look into it, and then bring that proposal to
I've
Helen.
done that, that's why I'm here. It got nowhere. Apart from the health and safety thing, which I could probably do within a couple of days.
It's about as bad as trying to get an appointment with the doctor, isn't it?
Right.
Well, I think if you were to say that, Christine, and Helen was here, I think she might have a different view.
I think she might, yeah, but it's disturbing to find out they've had several attempts trying to get in touch with them,
No, I know there's been contact on several occasions, yeah.
and they've not been replied to, so...
No, they have been,
No, they have
they've
been
been
replied to,
refused.
Christine.
They've been refused.
Yeah.
They've been refused use for all the reasons that I mentioned earlier.
No, right.
And that's why they're making representation tonight.
Right.
So if I could ask for you to do that and put
Yeah.
a proper proposal together, and then it can be considered by the management of the Civic Centre, and a decision can be made.
Can I emphasise that the refusal we're talking about is for events now, probably up to September. What happens after that? Obviously, we're going to have the building open again. Obviously, we're going to be trying to get functions in here on a Saturday night and any other night. Currently, it was felt unsafe to do so.
Yeah, I
That's
understand
probably
that.
the nub of the matter.
Chair, just an observation, because I'm a district council, so I don't sit on the parish council. In your representation, could you make it clear the financial breakdown and benefit to the civic centre when you put the representation in? Because I think that would help the management committee to understand what would be the benefit financially for the hall
Yeah.
with an outside bar. It would just help, because as Peter said, they've never had an outside bar before, they don't know how it works, so it would help them, I think, to come
Yeah.
to a
I just thought it
decision.
was a temporary measure just to take your bar.
Exactly. I think if you put it all together, it might make the decision a bit easier.
And it's for profile at all as well. I know, we know Pam, she had her birthday in the way, didn't she?
A couple of bookings come out of the people that come in here.
Yeah, absolutely, I get that. But yeah, if you can do that and put some suggestions of what numbers you would anticipate being in here safely, etc., in your risk assessment.
We'd have to look at government guidelines, wouldn't we? Or is it your guidelines we've
Well,
got to look
it's
at?
going to be a risk assessment now based on the venue. You know the size of the room, you know what ventilation there is, you know what entrances, exits,
Yeah.
doorways, etc. there are, where people are likely to be sitting, if you've got groups of people.
I don't think you have to do that anymore after Monday.
Yes, you do.
I don't think you do.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's a personal choice, isn't it?
It's individual venues that, and also whether you wear masks, whether you don't wear masks, etc. So it is, the onus is being put onto venues and people. Yeah.
Look into that.
So if I could ask Peter to do that, send it to Peter.